In looking at young people involved in the occult, do you...
Hi guys, so I took a poll on Twitter and asked you guys what you wanted to see me do a video of, and the one that I did want to do was the one that won, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Today we're gonna be talking about my experience with mental illnesses, and I'm gonna sort of like lightly brush over the recovery from it, but I have like this whole messy list of things that I need to talk about, and it's probably going to be really not super like goofy like normally, but I mean, just sit back, grab something to drink. I mean, I have Dr. Pepper and list, and then we're just going to go over and completely tell the story of everything. That way we can understand it all. So I'm going to start from the beginning, that way there's no gaps. I might leave a few stuff out, not because it's not important, but mostly for time purposes. So yeah, let's get started. So the majority of my like depression at first was doing a lot with my sexuality, because at the time my mom didn't like that I was gay. And at the time I actually came out as bi, and I talked about this in my Growing Up Gay in Arkansas video, but really that it was really deeply rooted in that, so I'll probably brush over a lot of what I said in that video, but just go into more detail in it. So the first kind of thing that really, like, other than my mom finding out, what led to my mom finding out was actually the fact that I was dating this guy. His name was Grable. He's from Texas. He's probably still there, but I was like completely infatuated with him, and like I would always like sneak up at night and like text him or like video chat him, or call him all the time. Like we dated for like months, like super duper secretive. Like I told certain friends about it, but not everyone. But we dated for a little bit, quite a while, until the point where he had like, he wasn't necessarily super nice to me. Like, he would degrade me, and he would always make fun of me for having acne at the time, and really, really damaged my self-esteem and how I saw myself, which isn't great for someone who's 14 years old and trying to figure out who he was, especially, like, with his sexuality. Like, that's not something that you want for your first relationship. And then he would also get drunk and go to parties and cheat on me, but at the time, like, I didn't know any better, and I really, really liked him. But he ended up, like, making me, not necessarily making me, but, like, guilt-tripping me into video chatting him for like 5 or 6 hours one day, and then I ended up using all of my data, like 20 gigs extra. Like my parents ended up having to pay $200 something over, and that's whenever my mom like cracked down on like what was happening. Like she asked me what was going on, so she took my phone away because I had used all the data. Like that was just the basic thing that you do to your 14-year-old when you use all your data. Because we didn't have a lot at the time, because we were splitting it like 6 different ways between like 10 gigs, and I'd used like 20 by myself in like the first 2 days. But she had been going through my messages, and then she read them and was like asking me if I was gay, and at the time I didn't necessarily know. All I knew is that I liked guys. I was still questioning about girls, but I knew that it would break her heart if I told her that I was gay, so at the time I told her I was bi. And then she told me that I was going to hell. And it's really, really sad to think about it like that. But, like, at the time, it devastated me. And it devastated me for years. But, like, I've already forgiven her. Me and her are completely good. She 100% accepts me for who I am now. But at the time, it really, really hurt to hear her say that. And my stepdad, well, he's my real dad. But, he was my stepdad. And that's how I sort of saw him for a really long time. Because we didn't always get along. Our personalities were really, really conflicting. So he would he was very, very like aggressive, and I don't know, it's just really, really hard. He was like a smart aleck and I wasn't, and I got easily annoyed, and he liked to pester people to show that he loved them, and that annoyed me. So we just weren't at odds, like we were at odds all the time. But he told me that he'd love and accept me for who I was, which is what I wasn't expecting, because my mom was my favorite person. My mom's always been one of my favorite people, so knowing that she didn't accept me for that really, really hurt my heart, because I felt like my favorite person in the whole world didn't love me. And she did love me, of course. She was just really, really confused and didn't know how to deal with everything, because she was raised religiously, and I don't blame her at all. But moral of where I was going. So the self-image issue started with Grable, my boyfriend, being really, really derogatory toward me, and then my mom finding out about everything. So then that summer I didn't have a phone, and my mom was like really, really like shitty to me, and like would say a lot of like sly comments that really got under my skin, and it started to make me loathe myself for being gay. And then I ended up getting a phone like maybe the month before school started, and I was like super happy about it. My mom was like, I don't want to see you doing any of that faggy shit on your phone. Like, those were the words that she said, and that really, really cut deep because it hurt really bad for my mom to say that because the wound was still fresh. I was still only 15 years old at the time, so I was really, really, like, insecure from how Grable had left me, and then on top of that, my mom not liking me. So then, with the body image issues of, like, how I looked that Grable had instilled upon me, I had started to, like, I like knew that I was skinny, but it started to develop, and like I still to this day don't necessarily know exactly how I look. I've started to work on it, but I started to develop sort of like a body dysmorphia type thing, where I didn't really know how I looked, and I thought that I was a lot bigger than I actually was. So I was constantly like like calorie counting and stuff like that, and it didn't start off as anything, but I looked at the hashtag on Tumblr like depression or like skinny boys or something like that, and I like been going through it, and it was really, really triggering at the time, and I didn't realize it, and it just became an everyday thing to just continuously go through those and compare myself to their bodies, and it was like living up to an impossible standard. And all my friends would get so annoyed because I'm obviously very, very skinny, and at that time I was even skinnier. I was only at like 115 pounds, and I still thought that I was too big. So I would constantly complain about my weight, and that made my friends be really, really irritated with me, which hurt my feelings because they were my best friends, and I loved my friends at the time. And I started to develop a eating disorder. I didn't like, it wasn't like bulimia or anything. I would just like go periods without eating thinking that I would lose weight, but it really didn't do anything to my body, thank God, because I didn't fully commit to it. But it could have done some serious damage, and I'm really thankful that I didn't fully go through with it. But once I developed that, I had already started to develop depression. Like, I was really not feeling it because of the whole like hating myself for being gay, and then the body image issues. But then my best friend at the time, I won't say her name, but we were really, really good friends. And then I had another friend that he like they started hanging out and started like excluding me from everything, and it really, really hurt my feelings because I don't know, I just felt like a nobody, and at the time I was super insecure and I really needed validation because I felt awful. So I got jealous and just stopped talking to them, and he starting all these rumors about me and like bullying me and saying these awful things about me. Like, got my whole forensics class, which is like competitive speech, to like think all these awful things about me. And he would like make fun of me for being depressed and shit, even though he was depressed during junior high and I'd been there for him. But then we're not going to talk about that. He had done a lot of really, really bad things, and I just kept thinking, like, kept trying to forgive him over and over again. And the girl at the time, I was so confused in my sexuality. I thought that I was in love with her. So really I just wanted her to be my best friend, but she wanted to be best friends with him, and I couldn't understand that, and it really, really hurt my feelings. So during all of this, I was dating a guy, and it wasn't like, I'd been talking to this guy, a different guy. I'd been talking to this guy from junior high all the way up until the summer right before 10th grade, and he never asked me out. So I ended up dating this other guy, and that really broke this guy's heart. We'll call him Bob. Really broke Bob's heart. So Bob and Joe. I'm dating Joe at the time, and things are going okay with me and Joe, but I'm kind of like pretending that I'm a lot happier than I actually am, because Joe was really, really well liked by everyone. He was really, really popular. Everyone wanted to be his like best friend. They wanted him to be their gay best friend, and I just wasn't all about that because I was really, really sad, and it started to bring Joe down. So then Joe, I don't know, he wasn't necessarily super supportive because he didn't really understand what I was going through. I don't really blame him because he had a completely different lifestyle than me. But then Bob this whole time was giving me all, like, filling my head with this awful hate about Joe and how he didn't care about me and all this stuff, and I ended up believing it, and then me and Joe decided that we were going to break up. It's so weird calling them these names. But we decided that we were going to break up so that I could get with Bob. But then Bob told me that he wanted me to feel what it felt like to be someone's second choice because he was mine. And he ended up dating this other guy and sleeping around and refused to date me even though I thought at the time that I was in love with him. So then that really, really upset me. And then my friend Grant, I'll just say his name, I ended up being really, really good friends with him, and then I started to develop feelings for him, which kind of was a block in our relationship because he was straight and had a girlfriend. But that didn't stop my little teen romantic heart from falling for him. But the bullying and forensics eventually stopped. But then a lot of this, like, it was all, like, piled upon each other. So, like, while I was dealing with my own issues, I was also getting bullied, and then I was also going through romantic issues with everyone else, and then, like, trying to deal with my feelings and find out who he was. So at the time, I was in love with Grant, but also had feelings for Matthew, but Matthew made me feel like shit, and Grant would never love me. So I was really, really upset. Oh my god, I just said his name. Oh, well. But I ended up sort of moving on a little bit, but then my parents could tell that I was definitely going through a number because I had completely reclused. I would sit in my bedroom all the time. Like, through that period, I think it was like November or October or something, through that period I was going through so much that I started to harm myself. And I never really got too serious with it, thank God, again, but my parents ended up finding out about it in like March or something, but I had already done the damage and I had already stopped in November, so it had been a long time, but I still had these scars. So then my parents realized that something was seriously wrong with me because I had never been really someone who would, like, I'd sit in my room and play video games, but I'd always come out and socialize and go outside and spend time with them, and then I had just completely reclused into my room. So they decided that I needed to go stay with my aunt and my cousins, who I'd grown up with in Colorado, because they thought it would be a really, really good change for me. They asked if I could come, and my parents, without hesitation, said that I could. And that was a really, really liberating experience. Taking a break from everybody that had been, like, all this toxicity from Russellville. I took a break and I went all the way to Colorado. I made a whole new set of friends that completely changed me. I've talked about this in multiple videos, but just really, really great people that I was able to truly be myself around, find out who I was, accept myself for being gay and who I was. The depression didn't necessarily go away, but I had stifled it, and my eating disorder had completely disappeared. And then after that whole situation with Colorado, I really, really changed my mindset on things. So then junior year came around, and I did not give a shit. Like, no one was gonna bully me. I didn't care. I didn't care what anyone thought, because that was the reason that I felt like sophomore year was so bad for me, is because I constantly wanted everyone to like me, and I felt so bad whenever people didn't. So junior year, I didn't care. Colorado had instilled that in me that I wasn't gonna care. I was gonna be myself no matter what, which I'm so glad, because that is honestly something that I constantly stand for today. But I ended up falling for this dude who was like older than me, and I had virtually literally no drama my junior year, like nothing until like the very end, and it was just a little scuffle between friends. So friendship-wise, school-wise, junior year was great. But this guy, he kept breaking my heart and then coming back, and I just kept falling for him, and he was the first person that I think that I've ever truly loved. And I'm still not, I mean, I'm over him today, but I still, like, it's the only romantic love that, like, really affected me personally out of everyone else. Like, I can look back at these loves that, like, I've gotten over, things that I thought were love, but this one was genuine love that actually did break my heart at the time and took time to repair. But this happened all the way up until senior year, and then senior year it happened for, like, the final time. So I was really, really upset about that, but then senior year, I was really, like, it was senior year, I had a good group of friends, I was really, really happy. I was going to focus on me even if I was heartbroken, because focusing on me was what I needed to do. So I started to build up my body image, started to care way more about myself than I ever had. Like, it took years for me to build up my body image, like, I don't know, but it was honestly the best decision of my life to start, like, trying to love myself, because it really has changed everything. But I ended up going to senior year just with this mentality that I was going to knock it out. Like, it was going to be about me and I didn't care. Not necessarily who I stepped on to get in the way, but like I wasn't going to let anyone make me feel worse about myself. Like, I wasn't going to let anyone demean how I felt about myself or determine how I felt about myself. So I was just in there doing me, and then we had the show Willy Wonka and just theater. I ended up doing theater, and it really taught me a lot about myself, to appreciate myself as a person. So senior year was really, really great, on top of having some really, really great friends. And then the summer, the best summer that I've ever had with my friends, we were constantly hanging out like every single day. We would drive around, listen to music. It was completely surreal. It was the summer that like I felt like I deserved, and I was full of friends at the time, and there was like little scuffles between like us hanging out, but like it was nothing compared to anything that I'd ever been through. So it was just a really, really great time. And I still think about that summer today, and I hope that like I'll find something, not necessarily to one up it, but to compare to it. And I'm still friends with all the people from the summer. We have grown apart, definitely, which really, really sucks, but I think that's just the way of life. People come into your life whenever you need them, and then whenever you don't, they disappear. It's very rare that you find someone that lasts in your life for a really long time. But I'm still like, after graduating, it was just really like trying to figure out who I was. Like, I ended up moving out, and I met some really, really great friends on top of having the friends that I have now, but I've been like really struggling with like bills, but then also like just coming to terms with the fact that I'm an adult, that I'm not a teenager anymore, and the depression hasn't completely gone away, but I mean, it's definitely still there, like in the back of my mind, like constantly like whispering hateful thoughts. But then I still have this body love, like it's like my body love versus my depression, and not body love, but like self love, my self love versus my depression, and they're just kind of battling. But yeah, I have all these bad thoughts sometimes, but then I have to just think positively, and it goes through like little phases sometimes where like I'll be like really, really bummed out, and I'll like be super, I don't know, sad and over dramatic. Not necessarily over dramatic. Everyone calls me over dramatic, but I try not to think that about myself, because I feel like that's demeaning, to feel like the feelings that you're feeling aren't worth it because of what other people are saying. Like, your feelings are valid, and I do feel like you need to be treated as such. That's definitely something that I'm working on. Confrontation has never been something that I've been great at, but I've started to change that. I'm starting to try and be more confrontational. Confrontation isn't always negative. You do need confrontation to progress in life, so I feel like that was always an issue with me, because I was never able to face my problems. I just let them hurt me and just tried to deal with it. But now I'm trying to start facing my problems, so that's what makes it difficult, because I'm like growing up and there's a lot of problems facing it. But currently I'm doing pretty okay. I mean, I still have like negative thoughts, but the thoughts aren't about like myself. It's honestly just about growing up and just coming to terms with the fact that I'm an adult, and how hard life actually is, and how like sometimes I feel bad for like even being sad whenever I had everything easy. But like, you can't feel like that, because like everyone's going through something, and like with depression, you can't help it. Like, you can't help feeling sad. And now I actually have reasons to be sad, but I kind of refuse to fully succumb to that, because I never want to know that feeling again. Like, I worked so hard to be who I am today, and who like someone that I can love and appreciate. So I would never want to experience going through that again. Like, that self-hatred, it's just not something that I can see myself going through, and I won't allow it. So this is a really, really deep video, and I'm really sorry if it was super duper bummy, but that's what you guys voted for. I wanted to do a video about self-love and teaching you guys about all these little tricks and tips that I learned. I'll probably do that one next. But it's just ways that I had like gotten through the depression and like started to love myself. It definitely isn't a quick process at all by any means, but it's so worth it in the end. Like, being able to look in your reflection, recognize the bad but not criticize it, and then also recognize the good and, you know, emphasize that good, and start like talking yourself up. Like, it's nice to like feel cute and not like constantly look down upon yourself. But me and my mom, like, we ended up, it took years for us to fully like, for her to, I'd not necessarily come to terms with it, but just like, I guess come to terms with it, sort of accept it. But now she's my favorite person, like she's my best friend, and I love her to death. So I honestly, if I could go back in time and change something, I probably wouldn't, because it completely made me who I am today. It made me a much better person. Um, Definitely do have more stuff that I need to work on, but I'm really thankful for everything that I went through, and I don't hate anyone that was rude or made me feel depressed or anything like that, because I needed it. Like, I didn't need it, but I made it through. And it's good to like look at yourself and be like, I'm tough and I can get through anything, because I feel like if I can get through that, then I can get through anything, which is sort of the motivator that I tell myself when I'm actually going through this hard part in life. But anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm really sorry it was sad, but I hope that it maybe inspired someone to keep on going, just keep fighting, because I know that I definitely needed that, and there was definitely a lot of people that inspired me. But anyways, I love you guys a lot, and it felt really good to open up, but then at the same time, it's really weird feeling so vulnerable to people, but it was definitely needed. Learning, like I can already feel right now, like in my heart, that like everything that I've been going through doesn't seem as hard now compared to everything, because I reminisced. I kind of like suppressed it and didn't talk about it too much, but it was definitely needed. So I do thank you guys for making me go through this, even though if I didn't necessarily want to at first. But thank you guys a lot, and I love you, and I hope you guys have a wonderful time. And if you ever need anything, don't hesitate to message me, because I may not be the best at giving advice, but I do genuinely care. So see you guys later.